Welcome, dear friends, to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. You picked the perfect show today to tune into. This is Take Two, where we take a fresh look at our life and the world around us. And today we're talking about clutter and clearing out the clutter in our lives so we can have a direct path to God. I'm Debbie Georgiani along here with Jerry Usher. And Jerry, I see a beautiful background behind you, and you're in the Palm Springs Airport. Can you tell us what you're doing in there? Did you just hang out at the airport or what?
Well, no, you and I both travel a lot, as our listeners know, and I've got a great trip I'm making today, and I planned the departure. I have a 10:25 Pacific time flight, so I'm gonna do the show from the airport here, and then pack things up, hustle over to the gate, and I'll jump on the plane. I'm going to Des Moines, Iowa today. I'm going to be speaking at a Legatus chapter tomorrow night. And then the folks who are involved in Legatus there also help to run St. Gregory Retreat Center, which is for those who are struggling with substance abuse of different types. And they've got me actually scheduled to speak at, I think, 3 of their facilities. So it's going to be a busy couple days for me, but I'm really looking forward to it. And I'll be on Iowa Catholic Radio, their morning show tomorrow. So a lot coming up.
How exciting, Jerry, and how dedicated you are to be on the show with us from the airport. I love watching the kind of the planes take off behind your head there as a background. That's kind of cool. I'm kind of jealous, actually.
Actually, there is activity right now. I have to tell people I wanted to get here plenty early, and it was kind of an eerie feeling. I was the only one in the terminal. And I took a panorama picture so that I had that because that's never happened before, and I'm sure it'll probably never happen again.
Talk about decluttering. You had no clutter around you at all.
Well, I had to escape the clutter at home to get to the airport today. And that's what we're talking about today, Debbie. And there are so many different angles we can take with this program, but we all just sort of we hold on to things, we pack stuff around, we store stuff, and if we don't have enough room in the house, we get an outside, storage, what do you call them? The you store it places.
Yeah.
And, Debbie, really, this has a very direct connection to our spiritual lives.
It does. It completely does, because having clutter around us is a distraction. It's overwhelming. We posted that on take2show.com. And really, there is very simple ways to clear out the clutter. And that opens up naturally, almost immediately, Jerry, this idea of focusing, solely on God and not having all these distractions of quote unquote stuff around us. And it was interesting, Jerry, a lot of people said, well, where is that in the Bible? Where is that in the Bible about clutter? Does God talk about clutter? Well, actually, he does. In I cannot pronounce it. Ecclesiastes 3:6.
Yeah.
That's right. And it says there's a time to keep and a time to throw away. And that is written right in the Bible. And we know God's word is true. And so even in Ecclesiastes, it talks about there's a time to keep and a time to throw away. Well, what is the proper time? Maybe today, this is why I said it's the perfect show. Jerry and I believe there's no accident that you tuned in. So if you're listening right now, this show may be speaking to you. So join in, share your take on maybe if you decluttered and how that changed your spiritual life, or maybe you have clutter in your life right now and you just feel overwhelmed and you're not quite sure what are some of the practical tools you can incorporate today that will open up your life and free you to have the abundant life that God has designed for us. So join us, will you, at 1-800-585-9396. That's 1-800-585-9396. Now, so many of us, like you said, Jerry, we deal with it. People get storage units. I actually have a friend, I'm almost embarrassed to admit, she has 2 storage units. And a gigantic house, too, which is kind of interesting because I'm thinking, how much stuff can you accumulate? I mean, that's a lot of stuff to have to pay for 2 storage units and, a house. That's like, paying for 3 mortgages. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. And how does that really impact our lives? Join us, 1-800-585-9396.
Yeah, and the clutter that we're talking about doesn't necessarily have to be stuff. It doesn't have to be 500 pairs of old socks that you just can't part with, that are you're never going to wear again and are just taking up space in your closet. Clutter can be activities. It can be how we spend our time. Are we spending enough time with our family, or is our life cluttered with meetings and hobbies and golfing and running to the gym and all of this stuff? So think about this for a minute, listeners, and then share your takes, because as Debbie loves to say, this is peer-driven radio. What you say on this show today, right now, could really change someone's life, not just on the temporal level, but on the spiritual level as well. So the number is 1-800-585-9396.
Jerry, even doing some of the research on this topic for today, I already grew even before we started the show, because a simple tool that I very easily forget all the time is that looking at a different and I'm talking about stuff now, looking at different items in my house and saying, really, when was the last time I used this or wore this or needed this? I really don't need this to survive. And making that actual simple action of throwing it away or giving it away. Better yet, a lot of things we have, we can really help others. I mean, I look at St. Vincent de Paul. I mean, I almost wish the St. Vincent de Paul truck would come by every single week at my house, like make a regular routine stop, so I could really help other people. And it does, it helps other people. So it's not just about purging and getting rid of and having to make that effort. You can actually be helping others live a better quality of life. So share with us maybe what your take is on this very important subject, because the idea of this show is to grow closer to God. That's the idea of it. And so if this topic can help you in some way, and you can add to it and maybe help another person, we all have grown closer to God. And that's the name of the game. 1-800-585-9396.
And we need to have things in perspective. As you're talking about, Debbie, my pastor, Father Howard Lincoln, who's been on my Vocation Boom show, he was recently in El Salvador. He travels as part of a medical mission every year. And a cute, well, not a cute, but kind of an interesting story before I share what I was going to share. He bought Time magazine to take with him on the plane. So he gets on this plane to El Salvador, and he opens up the magazine, and a centerfold article is on El Salvador. They call it the kill zone, how it's becoming one of the most dangerous places on earth to visit. And here he is already up in the air on his way to El Salvador. But he shared some of the stories of just the suffering and how much these people don't have. They don't have simple medical care. They don't have food to eat. They don't have education. So I think your points are right on, Debbie, that we have so much excess, and it's not necessarily sinful, but if we just look at all that we have and how we can share with others, we can change the world, one old pair of jeans at a time. So that's what we're talking about today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
So we're excited you joined us. The phone lines are starting to fill up. There's room for you. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll start hitting the phones and sharing with each other all about this idea of clutter in our lives, but decluttering. That's the key for today. So we want you to stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Number to dial if you want to jump in is 1-800-585-9396. Be right back.
"60 Seconds with Mother Angelica."
The good news is that as we struggle and God pours grace into us and we correspond and we rise and we fall, rise and fall, God in His infinite mercy loves us, keeps us going, gives us strength and courage and joy. Joy. Be joyful. Go on, smile. It won't hurt you. Even if you got a problem. Even if you got a problem. Smile at your neighbor. I want you to remember a little sentence. And the sentence is this: you may be the only Jesus your neighbor will ever see. I want you to know your dignity. I want you to know how great you are before God.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN. I am the Jerry half of Jerry and Debbie, and I'm in an airport today waiting to catch a flight to Des Moines, Iowa. Can't wait to be with those of you on Iowa Catholic Radio live tomorrow morning. Speak at a Legatus chapter and then some other venues as well. We're talking today about clearing out the clutter. What is your take on this? Do you walk through your house? Sometimes, like me, I know if people could see my bedroom and my closet, sometimes I think, oh, dear Lord, what am I going to do about this mess? And so if you feel that way, if you look at all your stuff and you just say, man, I just have too much. I need to clear out some of this. I need a breath of fresh air. Give us a call here. Or if you've done that successfully, maybe you've cleaned out some of the clutter in your life. You've purged some of this stuff. You've made more time for prayer, for good things, made more room in your house for the things that you really need. 1-800-585-9396. Deb, we got some calls to get to.
We do. First call is it Lully? It's printed as Lully in Colorado. Lully, are you on?
Yes.
Is it Lully?
Yes.
Okay, what does that stand for? Is that a nickname or is that your full name?
That's a nickname.
Very cool. So what is I'm just curious, what is your birth name?
Well, my first name is actually Loretta, but they've called me Lolly for so long because somebody couldn't pronounce it.
Oh.
So that's been my...
Kind of like Ecclesiastes.
Lori.
Right.
Lori even, so...
Oh, beautiful. Very beautiful. Well, welcome to Take Two. Give us your take on this topic of clutter.
Well, as I explained to your caller, screener, when I was younger, I would take things out of my closet and I'd donate them to Goodwill or whatever. And one day, I don't know if it was my dad or my mother, and they came in when I was doing that, and they said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to donate this stuff. And they said, well, that's a good idea because poor people don't have old clothes, and they probably really want some old clothes. And I said, well, what do you want me to do with them? And I said, they're good clothes. And they said, well, why don't you wear them a little bit longer, buy something new for the poor person, and donate that. So that's what I try to do now.
Wow. Very nice. Very nice. How beautiful is that? Well, let me ask you this question real quickly. First of all, that's got to make you feel, fantastic that you're doing that, because that's just a beautiful, beautiful gift that you're giving another human being. But my question is how does it also make you feel? Because it sounds like you're okay with purging, stuff that you're not using. Does it give you a sense of, a freeing feeling, or what does it feel like? I want to get into the feeling of it, because so many people, including myself, struggle sometimes with having to part with something.
Actually, it seems like the more I give away, the more I get. I mean, it's really, really true. It's like I used to have rentals, and I tell the people there's a lot of stuff downstairs that's valuable. Nobody would probably know if you stole it and if you took it.
Right.
So it seems like the more I give away, the more I get, and that's really true. It's like you can't give it all away. It's like the Lord, when you donate, I went to donate to my church, and I said, please don't put me in the raffle. I don't want to be in the raffle. Just take the money. Well, somebody put me in the raffle, and I won the raffle. I was like, don't do this. I don't want this. So, yeah, it comes back on you so many times. You just wouldn't believe it.
Lolly, that is a great contribution to the program. Great way to kick off our phone call segment here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Thank you, Lolly, for calling. Keep the faith there in Pueblo, Colorado, and keep us in your prayers if you would. Our number is 1-800-585-9396. Do you have a similar story to what Lolly just shared? Or maybe your own very unique take on this clearing out the clutter you'd like to share? Susan is with us. Susan is in Boston listening on the Station of the Cross. Susan, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, how are you?
Doing
good.
well.
How are you,
Susan?
I'm doing good. I called because I turned on the radio and you were speaking of a subject that is near and dear to my heart, because I am a professional organizer. I have been one for the past 10 or 11 years or so. So I can appreciate everything you're saying.
Wow. So we've got a special guest on with us today, Jerry, a professional organizer. That is okay. So
I need your help, Susan.
yeah. So Susan, we don't want to give away all your, your part of your trade secrets and stuff, but can you maybe impart to us some simple tools that can help us like immediately that, obviously you've seen the immediate benefits when a person all of a sudden frees themselves and gets organized and can prioritize. You probably have more stories to share than we could ever muster up.
Absolutely. But what you're saying is very true. It's often when people, when you finish with a client, the amount of peace that they feel and the relief and the gratitude when they are freed from the burden of their stuff. Often I will tell people there should be nothing in your home that isn't either useful or beautiful. Basically, everything else is clutter, right? I mean, the rest just kind of takes up space. It's also, like I said, very freeing when you are able to do the purging, whether you need help or you need somebody else to do it with you, whatever it might be. It's a great experience.
And Susan, can I ask this question? I'm just curious because this is fascinating that you're a professional organizer. I think that is so cool. How did you come about that? I mean, were you just really good at it when you were a kid and you just knew how to organize? Did you learn it? And then and how do you do it for others? Because how do you determine what's important and what's not important? Like if you were to come into my house, like I may see something and I may say, no, Susan, you can't throw that away. It came from my great grandmother from Italy and you can't, and how do you know?
That is so true. So to answer the first part of your question, I do believe I was born this way a little bit, and my husband was very happy when I found an outlet, I must say. I remember organizing my sister's toy box when I was about 8 years old, and I think she's still traumatized from that event. But I've gotten kinder with age. And as far as letting go of certain things, often I'm there just to relieve people of their guilt of letting stuff go. We hold on to things for very different reasons. Sometimes you paid too much for something, right? And you feel bad getting rid of it. But unfortunately, the only purpose that item serves is to remind you that you spent too much money on something you didn't need. So just let it go and let the guilt go with it and move on and learn from your lesson. As far as gifts from family and things like that, we'll hold on to things for a while, but if they truly, truly serve no purpose to you any longer, it's not something that you'll ever use, but it's something somebody else could use. Give it think of the spirit in which it was given to you. It was given to you as a gift, not to make your life difficult or miserable. Move the item on, let it live another life, recycle it to another person.
Susan, Jerry here. I've got a question. Here's maybe a problem that I have. I don't know if it's my personality or just the way I'm wired or whatever, but I like to start and complete a project. I mean, I like to complete a project, kind of in a linear fashion. Once I start something, I want to just plow through until I'm done. This is the kind of thing that doesn't lend itself to that because you got so much stuff in the house. So maybe give some encouragement to me and maybe to some of our other listeners to 5 minutes a day, look through the house and box stuff up 15 minutes a day, once a week. How would you suggest somebody like I do that?
Yeah, and that's good. You're very task-oriented, which is a wonderful thing, but unfortunately some projects don't lend themselves to a one-day attack, say with a garage or something like that. And if you are working on a much larger project that is going to take up more time than you actually are able to commit to it, there is a way to kind of keep your life, once you get an area organized or you're trying to get an area organized, move linearly. Just like you said, you can start in one corner of the garage and work your way around. Don't get sidetracked with keep running items back to where they belong. Put a bin together, throw them all in the bin, and deal with it at the end of your session. I think trying to deal with your spaces on a weekly basis is a wonderful way to stay on top of it. Mm-hmm. Even with a schedule, like somebody was saying, time management is an issue. Going through your week on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening with your family just to kind of get a handle on what everybody else is doing. So, because organizing isn't a project, it's a lifestyle, like a diet. The diet really shouldn't be a one-day event. It's truly a lifestyle. Organizing, you kind of have to look at it the same way. becomes part of your habits.
That is amazing. Susan, you know, we talk about that there's no accident to this show, and there was no accident. Yeah.
That's funny.
That you tuned in. I have to ask you this on a personal note. Do you have a website? I'd love to get in touch with you. I could handle you cleaning out my house. I really could.
Oh, you're sweet.
Do you have a website?
I do. It's more than organized .biz.
And can I ask, because you're in Boston, Massachusetts, can I ask you, I'm in Arizona, so do you do this? Can I hire you over the phone?
Yeah, you know, there are several areas that can be addressed. If somebody's very self-motivated and they're good at working on their own, we can definitely I'm a life coach as well, so that all kind of ties together. So it would definitely be a conversation I'd be happy to have with you.
Oh, bless your heart. Susan, you are amazing. Yeah, this was perfect timing because we really wanted to impart practical tools and kind of thoughts that all of us can start to incorporate immediately and not be overwhelmed. Because I have to tell you, just dear listeners, I actually keep a very, very, very clean home. I'm kind of a little bit on the borderline of just not kind of, people kind of say OCD, but I'm not, strictly like that. But I like a clean, organized, home. However, my office, I do have trouble letting go of, like business cards and, different notes that I've accumulated from, somebody will send me a note or even emails. Jerry, you send me emails and I have a hard time deleting them. And I know you are good at it, Jerry, to delete them. But I'm sure, what Susan was sharing, it's kind of a mindfulness of how we have to really look at things and how to be aware of what is prompting us, our emotions, what are we attached to, the guilty feelings maybe of letting something go, or the fear even, or anxiety. So Susan, I just want to say, God bless you for tuning in and calling in and sharing the advice with the whole world. And I feel so blessed. I know our listeners, I hope you all feel that way too. And I hope you're having a beautiful, blessed week in Boston, Massachusetts, Susan.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you, Susan. Listening on the Station of the Cross. We've got other calls to get to. Michelle, you know what? If we put you on right now, we're going to have a hard break coming up in just about 1 minute. So, Michelle, I know you've been waiting for a few moments here, so we'll get you on right after the break. Our phone number, 1-800-585-9396. 1-800-585-9396. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. This is the show where we take a fresh, hopefully unique look at certain things going on in our lives, and one of those is the clutter that we have in our lives. And I just wanted to mention today, Debbie, it was amazing. I went to Mass this morning, and the gospel reading was from Matthew, and it's about the rich young man who goes away sad, and it says because he had many possessions. And I was looking, toward this morning's show, and I thought, man, the timing on that is just absolutely amazing.
Wow, and that was today's gospel message.
Yeah,
that is just amazing. What is the phrase, Jerry, where it says there's not a van following a hearse or something? Remember, I've heard that before.
Oh yeah. There's no, I forget. Yeah. There's no truck full of your stuff following the hearse that's taking you to the cemetery or something like that. Right.
And I often think of that as a visual, because I'm thinking, that's so true. I mean, life is so precious and short, and there's so many distractions around us. And that's what we're talking about today, dear listeners. So if you'd like to chime in and share your take, we really want to hear from you. Like we said, there's no accident. So please call in at 1-800-585-9396. And before we go to break, I just want to share that the Facebook posts, you guys are doing great, the likes and sharing the likes, because we are so super close to 2,000 likes on the EWTN radio Facebook page. So keep it up, keep inviting friends. We're going to be right back. We're going to take a quick break on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Be right back for more talk on clutter.
Hear what others are saying about listening to EWTN radio.
I just wanted to call in. I've been listening for a year now. I converted to Catholicism about a year and a half ago, and this radio station has just been so instrumental. I drive around all day working from my car in sales, and I just can't get enough of it, and it helps inspire me. Just walk the walk every day, so thank you for that.
Listen daily to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Kathy Sinnott, and I'm host of EWTN's Celtic Connections. From our studios in Ireland, we take a Catholic look at the big stories breaking in Great Britain, in Ireland, and across Europe. Celtic Connections is the only Catholic news show made in the UK or Ireland. So join me every Saturday and Sunday on Celtic Connections.
For dates and times in your area, log on to EWTN.com.
I put you on in the morning, and it's like having a friend talk to me during the day, and it refreshes my spirit so I can go about the business of doing my vocation of taking care of my family.
If you have a comment about our programming, we'd love to hear from you too. Call 205-795-5773 or send us an email to radio@EWTN.com. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you.
Get an insider's look at the latest information from EWTN. Sign up for Wings, EWTN's weekly email newsletter. Get the latest information about live events, special features, and guests. Connect with EWTN on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Just go to EWTN.com and click on the Wings link to sign up. Don't miss a minute of all that's happening at EWTN. Get your wings today.
Live with you on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. We've got several wonderful shows coming up for you. In fact, the next time that we are together with you, I will be broadcasting from Iowa Catholic Radio, and we're going to be talking about actions speaking louder than words. We're going to talk about putting our faith into practice. That's tomorrow on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. But next, we're going to go to Michelle in Sacramento. Michelle, you've been holding very patiently. Thank you, and welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Good, Michelle.
Good,
How are
Michelle.
you?
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Well, I was just calling to share a story. A number of months ago, I was looking through my closet, and I discovered that I was some sort of secret jeans hoarder because I had like 11 pairs of jeans between my kids' closets and my husband and I in our closets, and I was shocked, and I thought, but I didn't want to throw them away because I couldn't bring myself to throw them away. They all had kind of, some of them had holes in the knees or whatever, but I cut them up and I made them into a quilt, and then I donated the quilt to a needy family. It was the twin size for like a little boy's bed. And I used a sheet that I had in my closet that was like a Cars theme, but I had never used it on my son's bed at all. And so I used that for the back, and I quilted the whole thing and then sent it off to a family. And it was nice to know that I was decluttering, but I wasn't throwing something away that still had some use. People weren't going to buy them at a thrift store because they had holes in the knees, but it was just a really neat way to get rid of something and give it new life.
Well, Michelle, they might, if they had holes in the knees, they wouldn't buy them in a thrift store, but they'd buy them off the rack brand new that way.
Yeah, I
know. Michelle, that is brilliant. If I had the talent to be able to, turn it into a quilt, that is brilliant. I mean, that's an art in and of itself that you're able to do that, to make it a beautiful quilt and to make that for a gift for someone else. I think that is absolutely ingenious, and I just wow, thank you for sharing that, because that does give. So many of us do have. Like I have a girlfriend that collects silk flowers. And she has a ton of them in her garage. but she's also very good at making silk flower arrangements, and so she gives those away. So it's interesting how you turned that, your creative senses, you turned it into a gift to someone else, and you made it very personal. And I think that is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. It actually prompted me to think of something for myself that I'm able to do on a personal note for someone else. And see, you just prompted me, and I'm sure you prompted thousands of other listeners. Michelle, way to go. Thank you for calling in today from Sacramento. And if you heard Jerry Usher's voice get a little quieter, kind of like a little more, just it went down a couple notches, that's because the airport is getting a little more crowded, and people are starting to look at him as he's doing the show. So I just wanted to share with you, his voice is changing a little just so that he doesn't have a crowd around him while we're broadcasting. But it's all good. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, Michelle has inspired me too, because I know I've got lots and lots of pairs of unused jeans. In fact, in the area where I live here, Cathedral City, California, near Palm Springs, other than church or other pressing necessities, we never put anything but shorts on year-round. So I don't need all those jeans in my closet anyway.
Can you make a quilt? You can't make
that. No, I'm going to have to ask Michelle for help with that.
That's right. When you're in Sacramento, you have to ask Michelle. There you go. She could start
All right,
a
next
business.
is Marta in the Rose City, Portland, Oregon. Marta, thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you?
Hi, Marta.
Hello, Marta.
Martha?
Hi.
Martha, yeah.
Oh, hi. I didn't recognize it was my name. Anyway, well, thank you for taking my call, and I'm calling from Portland, Oregon. And Jerry, I love to hear you when you come to Portland to Matter Day now.
Thank you.
To do the Sheraton. It's a lot of fun to see all that happens.
Yeah,
there.
I love it. I really love it.
So anyway, I was just thinking to share, I grew up in Guadalajara, Mexico, and my mother was very detached person and very orderly, so she taught us from day one to, pass on our good clothes to our cousins, because we have a lot of cousins, and so it was three of us, almost 1 year apart, so all our clothes were like new when we were done with them, and so I would just go to the next cousin, and then they pass it to the next cousin, and most of our dresses were handmade by my mother because she was a seamstress. And so they were beautiful clothes and stuff. But the other thing she had when we were getting to high school, by the time we left for school 7 in the morning, we have to leave our beds made, and make our own lunches and everything, and wash our own clothes. So we were very, we had 2 pairs of shoes, one for Sunday, one for school. And so I grew up like that. And then when I got married and moved to Portland, I was sort of happily shocked sometimes with garage sales. That was a totally new experience for me. And I thought, why is people throwing away good stuff? And then I found out that they get rid of stuff they don't want, and then they go buy some more, and then the next year maybe it's in the garage sale again. So anyway, but as the years went by, I got involved about 8 years ago with the Lake Carmelites in our parish in Holy Rosary. It's a wonderful parish, and I belong to the Carmelites, and one thing that is stressed a lot, to be in friendship with God, we need to be detached. Detached not only from things, but even in the way we look at each other, not to be possessive. And so always ask yourself, why am I being so attached to this? When it's very easy for me to give something away, but if somebody takes something from me, if I'm really upset about it, then it's showing me that I have, disorder attachment to something. So it's a very positive way to look at it. So we always ask ourselves, is this for the glory of God? Is this for my own good, for my salvation, or for the good of others? And so if I put those questions to myself, it's very easy to let go. And I think it was St. John of the Cross that said that even a bird that is attached by a string is still attached, and he cannot fly. So I think God wants us free. And so that's...
It's a great point, and I remember, you think of the passages about, the birds of the air and the flowers of the field, and God takes care of them and gives them everything that they need. Who are we as human creatures endowed with an immortal soul? And not only that, but called his sons and daughters. Who are we to worry about whether or not God is going to take care of us? But sometimes we take that care of ourselves into our own hands. We fail to trust God, Debbie, and really, and it's a fine line. Let's face it. We have to be responsible. We have to work hard for the things that we need, like to pay our bills and so forth. But again, at what point does it become too much? And I love that Marta mentioned. I think she said like a Goodwill or something. I'm wearing shorts and a shirt today that I bought at thrift stores. I am a huge
and they look pretty
store.
good too.
Well. And this is the thing, those who are clearing out their clutter are helping me because I'm now wearing their old clothes.
That's right. That's right. But Marta brought up a really good. I think it was so well spoken, and thank you so very much for taking the time and calling in today from Portland, Oregon. And Marta, I love how you brought up the Carmelite principles and of detachment and how important that is, that we have that mindful understanding of detachment, and it does allow us to have full trust in God and a full, clear path to God. So I just thank you so very much. You really inspired me today, and it really makes me realize I love the Carmelites, I have to tell you, and I just think the different precepts of kind of their principles, I say, or their mission statement, if you will, is so beautiful, and it really does further our spiritual formation and grows us closer to God. And wow, boy, I'll tell you, I've learned so much today. Every single show, Jerry, I have a couple pages of notes. Today, I've got all these action items I've got to do now. So there, Marta, I just want to thank you so very much. Have a beautiful, beautiful and blessed day. Okay, so if you want to jump in, there's still an open phone line, and there's room for you. So if the Holy Spirit is prompting you, now's the time to pick up the phone and talk to Matt, our call screener. He's so nice, Matt Gabinski, and you'll love talking to him. You can listen live. Number to dial is 1-800-585-9396. So thank you again, Marta. And we're going to move on to Megan in Chattanooga, Tennessee, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Megan. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Little rainy here.
It's rainy?
But,
okay.
Oh, very, very. But I turned on your show, and it's like, oh my gosh, I have so many piles, and this is such a timely issue for me. So what I've started doing, because I'm a little linear, and the job is just so large, that I discovered the coffee boxes that I bring home that have the coffee pods in them for my 1-cup coffee machine. Is the perfect size. When I empty them out, I fill it with something, whether it's from a pantry for a food drive or clothing or just little knickknacks around the house. I put them into those boxes, and there's always something going on in the church or someone that needs something. So I make it a little project. So instead of just throwing an empty box away, I fill that empty box, and I either bring it to the church, or what I've recently found is as the colleges start, there's Catholic houses on the campus, or so many places on the campuses that you can bring like your pots or the dishes that don't match anymore, and they become very, very useful.
Right.
So it's kind of like a trifold thing.
Right. Well, Megan, actually, I'm so glad you called in, because you brought up something that we really wanted to address before the end of the show. And I'm hoping that Susan from Boston, Massachusetts, our professional organizer who called in earlier, she's nodding her head in agreement right now as I'm about to say this. Megan, you touched on something so perfect at your timing is so amazing, because one of the things that when I was researching this subject is it says it just really, because the fact that decluttering can be very overwhelming because it looks like such a huge project, to do it in small increments and to remove it in small increments, and it sounds like you've got a great process in place and it's bearing great fruit, and so that is it's just so perfect. I read something online late last night that talked about even just clearing out one shelf of a cabinet, or one drawer, or one little spot on your desk, not the whole entire office. So Megan, you touched on something beautifully, and that does help us, because we're all in this fast-paced world where who can really who really has the time, especially if you're taking care of kids or working outside the home, or even or being a caregiver. It's hard to take a full 8 or 10 hours to clean a whole room. So I'm glad you shared that. Jerry, I know you wanted to jump in.
Well, I think there's a great tie into the spiritual life there, and that is we want to, once we kind of have an interior conversion, we want to start doing all of these great things for God and growing in holiness and, spending 3 hours a day in prayer and going to Mass every day and praying all 20 mysteries of the Rosary and the Chaplet of Divine Mercy and this and that. And wise spiritual directors will always tell you, if your state in life allows you to do that, if you're a monk or a nun, a cloistered nun or something, that may be one thing. But if you've got a spouse and kids and a job and things like that, then that's not wise to do that. So you start small. You pray 15 minutes a day. You pray 5 decades of the Rosary a day. You go to Mass on Sundays, and if you can get to daily Mass, great. If not, add 1 day a week. So, Debbie, I just think there's a fantastic tie-in between what Megan is saying and growth in the spiritual life.
Right, I couldn't agree more. And Megan, would you like to add anything?
Well, I just have to say those words that Jerry just said were meant for me to hear today. So thank you very, very much.
Well, that's
bless
the Holy
your heart,
Spirit.
Megan.
Yes, bless your heart. Have a beautiful day, Megan. Wow. See, the Holy Spirit is so beautiful, constantly fluid, constantly moving in the lives of all of us together, because we're the body of Christ. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. We have phone lines filled up again, which is good. We keep learning and growing. So on take 2 with Jerry and Debbie, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we will get to, Cindy and Barbara and hopefully Marianne. So hang on there. We'll be right back.
Started drinking beer on Saturday nights, sleeping in on Sunday mornings, missing Mass, and it just became a pattern and continued. Without God, I don't know where I'd be right now. I know the importance of the Eucharist. I know the importance of the sacraments that I didn't know at a young age. I follow God's will because my desire is to get to heaven. Our lives are rich and full by being members of the Church.
If you've been away from the Catholic Church, visit CatholicsComeHome.org.
Witness to life, family, and religious liberty should always be a work rooted in the Eucharist, even when we do not see or know the one we serve and protect. Pope Benedict has emphasized that an authentic Catholic witness rooted in this sacrament of love will boldly and publicly lead the faithful to acts of love that uphold the dignity of the person. To join Human Life International in this discussion, visit truthandcharityforum.org.
And you can see and hear once again how your takes, your contributions to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie help us. They help us. They edify us. And they help your fellow listeners as well. That is what this program is all about at 1-800-585-9396. Clearing out the clutter in your life. It could be physical stuff. It could be possessions. It could be that you're over busy. How have you managed to do that? Or maybe you want some advice on how to get started doing that in your life. Let's hear from Cindy next in Columbus, Ohio, listening on Living Bread Radio. Cindy, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, thank you.
Sure.
So I am calling. I was listening to your cast here, and I'm an organizer, and I just wanted to weigh in on the subject. I find that a lot of people, their lives are very, very busy. If you have children and two parents working, a lot of times, the parents are just barely getting home from work when they're rushing their kids off to sports and, whatever, music lessons, that kind of thing. And, they're coming home late in the evening, barely spending enough time to have a dinner at home. And this is just the way their life goes, day after day after day. And then, of course, their weekends are filled with sports and all that good stuff. And so they don't have time to get behind their clutter. And so what I find, when I come in and they devote some time to working with an organizer, or if they're dedicated enough to being able to just say, I'm going to take a chunk of time and focus on organizing myself, it's amazing what they can do to declutter a space and in turn get some peace in their life, just by organizing one space where everybody tends to want to go to ultimately because that space is now cleared and clean and it feels good. Really, does help when you have a space where there are things, you're looking at them and everything's screaming at you, do something with me all the time.
Right.
It does get a little overwhelming, and your mind is so cluttered that you don't have time to find that peace in your life.
Well, that was well said. I have to tell you, and there's a lot of, I have a lot of friends that actually have dedicated rooms in their house that are they have spiritual symbols and pictures of Jesus on the wall, and they're very, very simple, and they're like prayer rooms, and that's where they get their place of peace. But I like what you said so much, Cindy, because, well, first of all, I want to ask you, Cindy, because we know we have Susan on the East Coast in Boston, but you're in Ohio and moving further in the Midwest, and so I wanted to ask you, so do you have a website too for a professional organization?
I run our local NAPO chapter. I'm the president of it, and I've been so busy I've never put my website out there, but I need to.
Okay.
But my business is simply Organized by Cindy, and
very cool.
And I've been doing this for 10 years and absolutely love what I do, because it's more than just a job. I mean, it's part of the service industry. You're really helping people, and people who are really stuck and don't know where to start, don't know where to turn. And if you have a family, your kids are living this too, and they learn from this. So like your other caller said, sometimes it's just taking those small steps, and it does tie into your spiritual life. Just take those small steps. You can't maybe say all 20 decades of the Rosary and the Divine Mercy Chaplet and read your, Bible and do 10 other spiritual things that start small, and you'll find, eventually you've got a rhythm going. And,
right.
Yeah.
Well, Cindy, and what I wanted to share with you too is actually your work is a ministry, because you said it so beautifully, because it does allow people to find peace and to find a sense of freedom, if you will, and that allows them to focus on the right things, meaning God, and so it's a ministry. And I love what you said about having that, communal space in your home where everybody kind of gathers, and not to have the stuff screaming at you. I love the way you said that, because you're so right. I know if I have a box that's sitting in the middle of the room and it's just kind of overflowing, it bothers me tremendously. I can't focus on anything else. And so I think there's that decluttering of starting with your own person, your own mind, and then with a space that you gather with your family. Wow, this is good stuff. Cindy, I can't thank you enough. I know, Jerry, you wanted to share your gratitude as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cindy. And you and all of the other callers, I think, have really kind of given me I'd say a renewed hope, that I can kind of get my clutter in order. I mean, it's not awful, but it's just stuff, that I
Right.
need to take care of. And I've heard people say, if you handle something like mail, when your mail comes in, handle it once. Open it up, take care of it, get it done. I like to open it up, take a look at it, and say, okay, good. This is something I can get to in a few days. And then, 3 weeks later, I'm getting late notices that my bills aren't paid. So, Cindy, God bless you. Thanks for calling. We're going to try to get one more call in. Barbara in Oklahoma City on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Barbara, there we go.
Yes.
Barbara, we got about 2 minutes, but we wanted to get your take on this. So if you could be brief, we'll help you out, and then we got to end the show. Go ahead, Barbara.
I'll try. Well, my story is that I was a new mom with about a 9-month-old baby and completely disorganized, and things weren't going all of that great. And so I went to the library trying to find some help. I was looking on a shelf, and not in the place where it was supposed to be, if it had been shelved correctly, was a book called Organizing from the Inside Out by Julie Morgenstern. I picked it up, I looked at it, and I went, this is exactly what I need. It was a book that kind of answered a lot of questions because it's about finding out what works for you individually, not taking a system that necessarily works for somebody else, and then trying to make it fit into who you are, but finding out who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you collect all the stuff? Why do you have 20 pairs of jeans that have holes in them that no one ever wears? And it was the answer for me, and it made me be able to be a better wife and a better mother.
Wow, Barbara, I have to tell you, you were the perfect call to close out the show today because we really wanted to touch on that as well. Jerry and I plan for these shows. We really pray about them and want the most to be getting out to our listeners. And I have to tell you that, Barbara, that was perfect because you're exactly right. It's not a one size fits all, and you have to really figure out what's going on inside that is making you hold on to things or not be able to let go of things. I can't thank you enough because you have helped so many. You've helped me right now, so I just imagine you've helped thousands right now. And I'm so sorry, Marianne in North Carolina, we can't really get to you today because we have to go ahead and close the show. But it says in the notes that you'd like some prayers to become organized. You've got those prayers. Think of this as a team. We are together in this, and this is just a beautiful peer ministry of growing closer to God. So please know that if we all keep praying for each other, we will continue to grow this ministry. And what's really cool about this is we may not be able to see each other right now because we're talking via the radio. But, someday, God willing, in eternity, we're all going to be with each other and we're all going to say, hey, do you remember when Barbara called in? Or do you remember when Susan called in? I mean, how cool is that? This is an exciting time for Catholic radio ministry. Dear listeners, Jerry just jumped off. He said goodbye to everyone and said thank you. He's safe travels
I'm still
to
here.
Jerry. Oh, Jerry, you're still on. Okay, safe travels, Jerry. And
Go
ahead.
I just wanted to say my takeaway is, when I get back from Iowa, I'm going to pack some stuff up and take it away. That's my takeaway.
Okay. My takeaway is I'm doing these action items right now, and I'm going to start to declutter. Stay with us tomorrow. Keep listening to Catholic radio all day long. But tomorrow we're going to talk about actions speak louder than words. So until then, we want to wish you an absolute beautiful and blessed day. God bless you.